All right. Hey there, and welcome to this episode where we're going to talk about the concept of pure O OCD or purely obsessional OCD and what I think about it. And so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Codde. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the creator of the AAA Response. Also, we are running our intrusive thoughts workshop, which falls kind of under that category of Pure O. So if you haven't registered for the workshop yet, please do so down in the link below. And if the workshop's already passed, we'll have the replay available for as well, in that link. So Pure O OCD. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Basically, there used to be this thought that there was this form of OCD called Pure O OCD or purely obsessional OCD. And the the theory was that there was, with OCD, you have intrusive thoughts, it causes anxiety, the person engages in compulsions, they get a temporary relief, it reinforces the thoughts, so they have more of those thoughts, more anxiety, more compulsions, and more relief, and this loop forms. Right, that's the OCD anxiety loop. And what had happened people understood this in the context of traditional, maybe more common forms of OCD, call it like contamination. They understood the person's having this thought, they're getting anxious, they're doing these behaviors like washing or avoiding, and that's how this loop is going. So they would intervene using traditional exposure response prevention and prevent those behaviors of washing and avoiding and checking and all that. And with Pure O OCD, the thought was that it was harder or not treatable because it was purely obsessional. The person was having just the intrusive thoughts. And what we've come to find is that it's just not true. It's wrong. The Pure O doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. Okay. And anyone that says it does, transparently, I'm just going to say it, they don't understand OCD, right? And because with every form of Pure O OCD, what's happening is the person is always engaging in some type of compulsion because that loop couldn't exist without compulsions or safety behaviors. And with Pure O OCD, the person is generally engaging in mental behaviors. And I would argue most people with intrusive thoughts are engaging in probably 80 to 90% of their behaviors are mental. And even most people with OCD, I would say at least half or more of the behaviors are mental, which is why, I'm such a proponent and teacher of the AAA response, because I firmly believe in making sure that we address the mental behaviors first, because they're the majority of the behaviors the person engages in. So to give you an example of different mental behaviors, things like rumination, analyzing, thought blocking, thought replacement, thought suppression, distraction techniques, right? Mental praying, mental checking, mental reviewing. So these types of behaviors are things that the person can do right in their head. So the person might have an intrusive thought, what if, fill in the blank. And generally will fall into the categories like we've been talking about in our series on harm, sex, and religion and faith. It could be also false memory. It could be a variety of things, right? Real event, OCD. And then what will happen is they will get anxious, and instead of the person doing an overt physical compulsion like washing their hands or avoiding something and something that someone else can observe, they'll just do it right in their head. They'll just sit there and ruminate about it. Well, did I do that? I don't know. And they'll go replay the event in their mind. Okay, no, don't think that, right? They'll try to stop the thought, try to bury it, replace it. They'll pray against it. They'll pray about it. All this stuff that's going on in here are the safety behaviors, are the compulsions. I cannot tell you, like how frustrating it was when I finally figured this out for myself, where it was like, I was talking to someone and they're telling me about mental behaviors, and I'm like, wait, yeah, I do all those. And I was like, wait, are you telling me those things are making me worse? Because I thought they were making me better. It seems like a logical thing. I'm just going to logic this out. I'm going to outthink this, right? But, as, one of my favorite things, Mark Freeman said, something that just stuck with me when I heard him say it was, who's another mental health advocate, and seems to, although I've never met him personally, we seem to align on a lot of things in the way we see OCD and anxiety. And I like I like what he puts out for people. But what he said is you can't outthink a thinking problem, and that's what the mental safety behaviors are, is trying to outthink it, ruminate, analyze, and just go in your mind to try to fix it. Now, people with intrusive thoughts also do physical behaviors. I want to be clear about that. A lot of people are like, well, I only do mental behaviors. They also avoid television shows that may trigger them. They may avoid songs that might trigger them. They might avoid people that trigger thoughts, right? So anything the person's doing to avoid situations where the thoughts might get triggered, also huge safety behaviors. They also will engage in certain coping and medicating behaviors, right? Smoking weed, drinking, shopping, pornography, right? Like these are escapism behaviors. They're still safety behaviors, right? They will seek reassurance, but they'll usually be very good and very tricky and very subtle, right? They might have an intrusive thought about their child, and all of a sudden go to their spouse and say something like, hey, just wanted to confirm that you think I'm a good parent, and wait for that person to say something, because those words will just hit that relief button in their nervous system. Still a major compulsion. And so they have their own ways of going about things, but they'll do a lot of internal checking as well. How am I feeling right now? Are the thoughts there right now, right? Reviewing, did the thoughts happen today? All this stuff is happening in the mind. And so someone who doesn't understand OCD, or understands it on a very kind of just basic level, may look at the person and say, hey, we're going to do exposure response prevention, and, have them, let's say, watch a television show that triggers them, and then they say, okay, you're not allowed to get reassurance. But if the person's sitting and ruminating or analyzing or thought blocking, thought replacing, doing any of the stuff that I just talked about, they're not doing ERP. They're just exposing themselves and doing compulsions and making themselves worse, because that loop's just going to keep spinning. This is why it's so important that, if you wrestle with Pure O, that you're doing the right stuff. And so, big thing I would recommend if you're listening to this or watching this and you are struggling with Pure O, attend the workshop. We have all the details right down below. Even if the workshop's already passed, we'll have the replay available for purchase as well, so you can still go through the whole thing. Also a good place might be to check out the book, From Stuck to Unstuck, my book that I wrote, because we go, chapter 4 is all about mental safety behaviors. It's the whole thing, right? Because I think this is the one thing that really keeps people hung up, is they engage in a bunch of mental safety behaviors without realizing they're doing something that's indirectly keeping the wheel going. So when it comes to Pure O OCD, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing. I've never seen a case, because once I talk to someone for about 10 minutes, we can start identifying a whole variety of compulsions or safety behaviors they're engaging in that they just aren't aware are safety behaviors. And the idea that it's not treatable or harder to is nonsense. It's not true, right? It's the same exact process. And it's just a lot of people who don't understand mental behaviors and don't understand OCD, they just don't know the person's doing it, because having had the experience of going through this process myself, I think I just understand it on a more intricate level because I've experienced it, right? And that's why I generally encourage people to talk to people who have firsthand experience in breaking out of this loop, because there's a difference in understanding like theory and understanding, personal application of something. It's kind of like if you're getting marriage advice from someone who's never been married, it's tough, because the person might be able to give you great theoretical advice, but then there's like the experiential knowledge that one gains from going through something personally that just can really fill in the nuances. So with that said, that's kind of what I want to say about Pure O OCD. I hope it helps. Please check out the workshop. We'll also have a link to the book in the notes. And with that said, hope you guys have a great day and look forward to seeing you soon. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.